This is Hannah from StonehousePhoto.com, and I talked about last week my keynote speech at Catkins Animal Rescue. And on my Facebook page, I said I would have a recording of my presentation, what I'd actually talked about. And so this is a slightly shortened version of my keynote speech from the Catkins Gala on Saturday. So, Catkins and Stonehouse Photo have grown together. Catkins was the beginning of my dog photography addiction. I had always taken photos of my own dogs growing up. That was kind of, my thing. My old dog, Tri, was the dog I used to take a lot of photos with. But Laura, the woman who owns Catkins, and myself actually served on the board of the Schwamigan Humane Association in 2004, 2005. And I think those were the dates. And so we became good friends based on dogs. And I was doing wedding photography at the time. And she was starting Catkins. And I was friends with her, shot her wedding, and she and I became even closer friends. And I started experimenting on her in terms of going and taking photos of animals. Because at the time, that was pretty relaxing for me. I was doing a lot of weddings. And I would go there to kind of escape, get my dog fix, and take some photos. And this is her with one of her dogs. They adore her. And this is from the benefit on Saturday. What I really wanted to talk about is how well taken care of these dogs are at Catkins, how they are so loved, and they tend to have a lot of special needs and high maintenance dogs there, and Laura makes sure that they are extremely well taken care of. And this is Freya. Freya was actually a feral dog that Laura and Catkins brought back to health. And she basically brought this dog from hating and being afraid of humans to being loved and happy and really trusting that humans were okay. She went from being completely unhealthy and scrawny and scared and the worst of what you can see, a poor animal who's been abandoned, to a dog that felt loved, safe, and is now relaxing on a couch at an undisclosed location, but is very, very happy. And this is Freya and Laura. This is when I first met Freya, and you can tell from Freya's extremely haunting blue eyes, they're beautiful, that she loved Laura more than anything, but thought I was kind of weird. And that's usually what happens with some dogs, is I have a camera in their face and they're just not real interested in what's going on. So this is one of my favorite Catkins Laura stories, is Freya. And this is, at the time, Gordon Wyatt. And if you follow me in any personal way, shape, or form on Instagram, at Stonehouse Photo, and occasionally on the Stonehouse Photo fan page on Facebook, you will recognize this as actually his name is Stewie now. And in May of 2010, I was down at Catkins taking some photos of some dogs to help her place them. And I met, at the time, his name was Gordon. And there's a lot of comments on my Facebook page about, he's so wonderful and so cute, and I love him so much. He really deserves a good home. And the only thing that is on there for my mother is the word no. And she must have known, because about 2 weeks later, Stewie came to live with Jim, my late husband, and myself, and was supposed to be a foster dog, but ended up being a rather ridiculous foster failure with the name Stewie. And Jim used to take Stewie around in the squad car and bark at things. That was their pastime. That's what they did. So this is Stuart, T little dog. And this is Laura and Stuart about 5 years ago, almost exactly 5 years ago. And you can see they adore her. So in 2012, in July 2012, I jokingly said to my husband, Jim, I want to take photos of dogs for the rest of my life. And he laughed at me and said that would never happen. You'd have to have something huge and amazing, and some sort of freak thing occur where you could do that, especially where we live. And I had what I called white dress syndrome at the time. I was so burnt out from weddings that I said, if I see another white dress, I'm going to freak out. And that's when I said, I just want to take photos of dogs for the rest of my life. And that summer, John Unger and I had been talking about doing some photos of his dog Shep in Lake Superior, because he used to take him to the lake to, soothe his arthritis. And I said, you know what, if you want me to take photos, just let me know. And he said, okay, well, I'll take you up on that. And he called me one day and said, I think this is when, he might have to be put down. Can you come take photos? I said, okay, sure, I'll come down. And the odd thing was, the only reason I was in town, I traveled quite a bit for my job, for photography. I traveled all over the country, and especially for commercial shoots. But the only reason I was in town is because I had a commercial shoot the week previously, and then I had a wedding on a Wednesday coming up. And I was missing both of my grandmother's funerals the weekend of, I believe it was July 30th. I was missing both of their funerals because I had shoots. They were on the East Coast, and I was absolutely distraught. And both of my grandmothers were huge rescue and dog fans. And I was almost like asking for a sign from them that it would be okay. And I went, and I sadly just needed something to do, and John asked me to do photos of Shep. I said, yes, of course. I went and did photos of Shep, and this is what happened. This became the impetus for me to be able to take photos of dogs for the rest of my life. Because of this photo, I have been able to travel all over the world, travel all over the country, teaching shelters how to take better photos of their pets. I have been able to teach people how to take better photos of their pets. I've been able to document amazing relationships between humans and their animals. And it's because of this photo that I have gotten to do all kinds of amazing things. After I took that photo, I became acquainted with an incredible online community of dog lovers. Because of that photo, they got to talk about the relationships between them and their dogs, caretaking relationships, loving relationships where they had done something to the extreme to take care of the one that they loved. And I was able to document that, to talk about it with people, to go all over the place. And this is Wyla from Team Wyla in Seattle, Washington. And I flew out and did photos of her. And you can see she is one of the sweetest dogs ever, and she is snuggling with her bear. And this was right before she died, and I got to spend 24 hours with her, showing the love between her and her humans. And I felt like that was my gift to them for taking such good care of her. So while that was going on and my phone was ringing off the hook, and really my voicemail would get filled up like 2-3 times a day with people wanting to talk about photography, wanting to tell their stories. I got a lot of crying phone calls of people who wanted to talk about how they'd taken care of someone or that they had been taken care of. And it was absolutely fascinating because I got to talk to these people about it. And my photos became a way for me to show, as with Wyla, these sort of caretaking incidences, which weren't just between humans, but between animals and humans, and going both ways. And I get to go all over and take all kinds of photos of people and their pets, showing them having fun, being loved, and really doing what they needed to do to enjoy life. And I was, traveling all over, and I came home one day, and I realized my dogs didn't have enough water, and I freaked out. I was so upset because I wasn't paying attention to my own pets. And I kind of slowed down a little bit, and I'm very thankful that I did, because in January of 2013, this is Jim and Stewie, my husband died unexpectedly when he was ice fishing on Lake Superior. He was a fishing guide. and he died doing what he loved, but I'm so glad that I did have some of that time prior with him. So that happened, and the wonderful community I met online and in person, but both. This community was formed, contacted Catkins, where Stewie, as you can see, is here, and they created the Jim Fund, which was in memory of Jim, and he had done all kinds of amazing things for animals, especially in his police work. So they contacted Catkins, and they have the Jim Fund there now. But at the time, I decided I no longer wanted to take photos of humans. I was done with it. It was too painful for me, and I didn't want to do it ever again at that point. So I returned to shelter photography. And rescue actually, in some ways, saved me, because I was able to travel the country taking photos of animals, and that was very therapeutic for me and got me through some really dark times in the spring after he passed away. I traveled all over the place, got to take some really funny photos of some dogs who obviously had a lot of energy. I personally like this one. I'm not sure if you can see it, but there's one that's peeing on the fence here, and this one is obviously boingy, boingy, boingy. And they were a lot of fun. So I did a lot of playing. Excuse me. And this is from a circus rescue in Florida. And this resident Chihuahua is hilarious and liked to boing all over the place and basically corral all the circus animals that were there. And I had a blast while I needed to, taking photos, jumping up and down, and causing trouble. And it was extremely nice for me to be able to zone out and do what I loved, which was to document animals. And this is Kirby from Catkins. And like I said, this presentation was from Saturday at their benefit. But Catkins was such a huge part not only of the beginning of my career in photography and really helping me hone my dog photography skills, but it was also really important in terms of when I was, only concentrating on animal photos. There were a lot of really interesting animals that Laura had. She tends to get some that are pretty, special needs, high maintenance. And this is Kirby, who, somewhat like Freya, came from a really traumatic situation. Kirby was abandoned and found near death and was nursed back to health by Laura and the Catkins crew. And he's an amazing, amazing animal. And if you look for Catkins Animal Rescue Inc. on Facebook, you'll be able to find out more about him and some of the other animals. So, why I do what I do. Not a lot of people know that I get to travel around, not only taking photos of pets, that kind of thing, but I also get to travel to shelters and make a difference by what I call pimping dogs out on social media. I have the most fun job in the world because I get to go take photos of these animals who need forever homes, and then I get to sort of farm them out and say, hey, this animal exists, this dog exists, it is a really interactive animal, or it's a little more low-key. And since I don't do any post photos, I get to show them truly how they are. And that makes a big difference when you are trying to get an animal adopted. As many of you know, is you want to portray them to the world as they really are, because then the right person will come across these photos and say, hey, that one's for me. And that happened in the case of Glenda. And this is Glenda with the shelter manager at Catkins. And you can tell she is so unhappy, so sad. Obviously not at all. She is really having a blast, extremely well taken care of. And I got to go take photos of her. And you can see, obviously, so unhappy, not at all. This is her playing around with the shelter manager. Just so happy. And I got to take these photos, put them on my blog to find the right people. For Glenda, who had a lot of energy, needed a very specific type of home. And these people found her on my blog And she's extremely happy now. Happy, well taken care of, and I get updates every once in a while. They're my friends on Facebook, and I cannot tell you how happy it is for me to see photos of this dog so well taken care of. This is why I do what I do, and it is the best job in the world. So now what I get to do is take photos of the bonds between humans and their animals. It's been extremely important for me. I went from not being able to take photos of humans to embracing the fact that I want to show the bond between humans and animals. This is a very important thing to show the world, that the love between, people, their animals, and what we all do for each other. We help each other heal. We help each other through bad times, through good times. And this is something that I get to document for people so they can look at them in times of sadness, look at these images in times of sadness and say, I feel love. I felt love. I feel love. When they need this most, they can draw upon those feelings. And that is extremely important to me, that I'm able to document that. This is my boyfriend, Al. Some of you guys have seen these photos of Al with Max on his last day. And Al has taken incredibly good care of me through a very dark time in my life. And it was important to me to be able to capture him and Max on their last day. And so he took such good care of Max. Max was 15. He got him as a puppy. And this is him on the last day. And this is right when he found out that he was going to put Max down. Max became very, very ill very, very fast. And we had to say goodbye to him. And I was glad I could capture these last moments for him. So now, this is a little bit of what I do in terms of the bond and being able to make sure that people can call upon those feelings when they need them. See the joy, see the love that they have for their companion. This is why I do what I do. And I get to build upon that even more with Catkins. Laura and Catkins gave me my best project. I'm currently working on a project showing the bond between officers and the animals that they either have rescued or are their companion animals. Unfortunately, officers are not shown in the best light because of media, because of many things in terms of their relationship with animal rescue. And it's important for me to celebrate these stories. It's important for the world to see these stories of the bond between these officers and the animals that they have rescued. And that's my most recent project, is I'm collecting photos and stories. So I'm excited to show that eventually in the next year or so. It's taking a while to get these photos together, but it's amazing. It's really incredible. So this is the wonderful life that I get to have in terms of wandering around, documenting animals, teaching shelters how to take better photos of their animals to get them adopted more quickly. And I am so thankful to Catkins and Laura for helping me begin my journey. And I'm so proud of her. And I cannot wait to see what other cool things she does. And hopefully then I get to take photos of it. So thank you so much. And I hope you enjoyed it. And have a great day.